People applying for new positions is like the cherry on top.
With the technology to attract talent.
Recruiters always know their best talent.
The AI just learned to use that information.
Inclusion efforts across the organization.
Tell me what it's like to work for through Associate Story.
Interviews with leaders in the industry. Talk about what's new in HR tech. What are the hot topics? We're here every week, folks. Weekly look at the latest and greatest topics in HR.
Welcome, everyone. This is Talent Experience Live, covering everything that you need to know in talent acquisition, recruitment, and human resources, of course. We like to say here that Talent Experience Live is the greatest show on the internet. So forget about your favorite podcast. Download this. Watch it while you're at the gym, or listen to it while you're driving. Please don't watch anything while you're driving. But nothing is better than this show on the internet right now. I am your host, Devin Foster, and Talent Experience Live is proudly brought to you by the good folks over at Phenom, whose purpose is to help 1 billion people find the right job. That is not a typo. It's not 1 million. It's not 1,000. It is 1 billion people. And our talent experience platform helps candidates find the right fit faster, employees evolve in their current roles and beyond, recruiters achieve some next level productivity. Who doesn't need next level productivity every now and again? And managers build better teams with data, analytics, and automation. And combining those 4 things makes talent experience management and helping people, 1 billion people find the right job. All of this is done with super slick artificial intelligence behind the scenes and machine learning. You can always head over to phenom.com if you'd like to learn more. I encourage it and see if you can help 1 billion people find the right job. Today's episode of Talent Experience Live, we are exploring the essential elements to recruit today's talent. We actually released a report recently called the State of Candidate Experience 2022 Benchmarks Report, where we dove into the Fortune 500. We actually audited all 500 career sites. And today we're going to share some of the achievements that we may have found, as well as some of the pitfalls. And I am joined by 2 very special guests today. I'm joined by JD and Janine Tkach. I practiced too. I apologize, Janine. Okay. Welcome to the show. JD is our VP of marketing here, and Janine heads up our candidate experience product team. So it is tradition around these parts that we always start off with a little bit of an icebreaker question. It's a bit of a running joke here on Talent Experience Live that nobody wants to get into HR when they have their first day of school and they hold up the little signs that say, what do you want to be when you grow up? So I'll start off today. Janine, we'll start with you. What did you want to be when you grow up?
Oh, I went through several career changes. Yeah. But by the time I reached college, I was going for magazine editor.
Oh, okay.
But that's okay.
It's all right. It's all right. Shoot for the moon, land on the stars. Shoot for the stars, land on the moon, whatever it may be. JD, how about you?
Well, first, I want to change the narrative. I'm actually sick of this whole conversation that talks about how people think no one ever wants to get into HR. HR is a ridiculously amazing profession, and it's growing more and more. And in fact, with COVID, going through COVID, HR were the heroes of the COVID situation for thousands upon thousands of employees in every company in the world. So I do think we need to start changing that narrative. First of all, we need to say, no, people do want to get into HR. Maybe that was a paradigm in a thought 10 years ago, but it's not anymore. You can learn a lot about HR. You can get right into a career in HR, and it's a very rewarding and professional career. So that's a paradigm I think we need to shift. So now, do you want to restate your question to me related to what I want to do when I grow up?
I think HR is a fantastic profession, JD. I dabbled in recruiting not too long ago as well. Wasn't for me. I always dreamed of being a professional athlete. If only I was a little bit taller, I could have been a baller, but that did not work out. So JD, with that being said, human resources being a fantastic career and many people want to grow up into it. What did you want to grow up and be when you were younger?
That's a good question. So there was a few careers I wanted. I wanted to be a carpenter at one point in time, work with my hands. Then I realized I wasn't very good at math or calculations, and I still am not. So I would have been the world's worst carpenter because nothing I made would have been square. And then I wanted to be a professional bass fisherman, which I would still love to be today. And that's a tough sport. And it's a lot of fun, but it's a tough sport. So I found that I have a passion in marketing. And it took me many years to find that passion, but it's a very rewarding career.
It's interesting that you say bass fishing,
yes,
because I equate that so frequently to recruiting, right? You are out on the boat, you are casting, trying to get that next big fish, right? A lot of times you may not get the fish on the first cast. It may not be the 10th cast. It may not be the 100th cast, but you got to be out there and just keep doing it. And it shows that resilience that human resources and recruiters have. With that being said, I think that was a fantastic segue, if I say so myself. We are talking about the state of candidate experience, which is, as we all know, candidate experience is the crown jewel of a rock solid talent acquisition strategy. But why are so many companies falling flat? We highlighted this in our State of CX report. JD, I want to address the elephant in the room. The report was done throughout the course of last year. A lot has changed. The economy is now on everyone's minds. Companies that were hiring at a rapid pace may have slowed things down. I want to ask you, have you seen a shift in not candidate experience, but the overall job market when it comes to human resources over the past few months?
Yeah, I have. I think we all have. So the question I ask the audience is, have you seen fewer and fewer help wanted signs? The restaurants you're visiting on the weekends or the weekdays, you're going out with your families and you're going to restaurants or bars or any type of establishment. Do you feel there's more wait staff, right? Do you feel, because when we were just starting to open up, everything opened up after COVID, I remember, man, it was really tough. I mean, restaurants have been struggling for years, and then they were still struggling getting staff. I am starting to see a change. Yes, I personally am seeing in our area that I live, I'm seeing still help wanted signs. People still want to hire, but establishments are, in fact, people are hiring, people are taking jobs. So that's one trend I am seeing. In fact, there's some restaurants in news. I believe there was an article a few weeks back, Devin, you referred this to me, that Olive Garden is fully staffed, is a fully staffed restaurant, right? And that's showing that, yes, the mom and pop shops from time to time are struggling or they're ramping back up. But some of these large corporations are, in fact, having a lot of success getting their employees back. They're getting their employees back, right? And that's something we could probably talk about, right? There's some companies and customers of ours who part of their strategy is reaching out to their alumni, right? Individuals that they had to depart with or let go based upon COVID. Now they're reaching back out to those same employees who were already connected to the brand and getting them back.
You mentioned a few things there. Organizations being fully staffed, as well as I've noticed less help wanted sign, but also companies may be shifting their hours of operation, right? They may have not been open on Monday or Tuesday. Sometimes when I want a coffee at Monday from my favorite coffee space, that may be disappointing. However, it's streamlining their business, right?
Yes.
They're doing that. And that's one of the things that we talked about in the state of candidate experience, is streamlining the process of the candidate journey, right? When we look at it, it really consists of four things for candidates. It consists of looking for a job, research and learning about the company and or role, the application process itself, and then hearing back and next steps. And I think hearing back and next steps is super important with what you mentioned about the job market changing, about the economy being, quite frankly, uncertain right now, and all of those things. So I want to take a step back, JD, and when we look at streamlining this process, when we talk about the candidate journey and looking for a new role, what does this report illuminate as a must-have on your career site for helping a candidate find the right job? Is it a chatbot? Is it intuitive job search? And are there any numbers behind that?
Yeah, I think, without diving just quickly going right into the report, I think when you look at what are companies really trying to do, companies are really trying to first engage and connect with candidates now, because with COVID, we saw that societal shift happen. The societal shift happened with employees or candidates, regardless of whether you're an existing employee or whether you're a candidate, if you're not making a connection, passionate connection with the company, then you're not willing to work for that company anymore, right? That's a shift that's happened. Employees or candidates are not just looking for work anymore. They're not looking for work. So if you're hiring them for work, you're probably going after them with the wrong intention. You have to be really connecting with them and having them connect to your purpose and what your purpose is as a company. And that's the first step. Is it's engaging. It's engaging with that audience, making that meaningful connection in some way, getting them connected to the purpose of your company or your brand. And I see this trend. Janine, do you see that trend as well happening in the market for what companies are trying to do?
Absolutely. I think especially when you think about how employees have been reacting to company policies and things like that, culture and values really, really matter to employees. And they want to make sure that the company that they're working for matches their own values as best as they can.
Yeah. So Devin, I think what I mean by that is there's some things that the report and the audit touch on, right? From a technology perspective of what organizations are doing to facilitate some of this connection or this interaction, and what their philosophy change has been too, right? So the report's looking at just the technology perspective, but it's not telling the full story, which is if a company doesn't believe in the ability to connecting with candidates first, then it doesn't matter whether they deploy a chatbot or personalization on demand or AI technology to do that, because they don't see the value in that yet. They don't understand the connection between the experience of being able to then convert that best talent.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I will put on my sports hat for a second. It's the X's and O's, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every team shows up to the field on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, whenever they play, with the X's and O's and how to execute a win. But it comes down to the players, how practice went that week, the whole nine. And that can be equated to the candidate journey as well, right? It may not just be about the data or the technology that's on your site. It's also about what you're saying and what story you're telling. One thing that I think illuminates stories and will be the future for really table stakes for career sites and candidate experience is video content. So Janine, I'll ask you this, without coming up with any specific numbers or anything like that. When you're having conversations with some of the largest companies in the world, are they beginning to recognize that video is no longer a nice to have, but it is a must have for, potential day in the life material or some of those values that you mentioned before?
Yeah, absolutely. You can convey a lot of things in video that you can't necessarily convey in text. And you also have the opportunity to tap your own employees to share what a day in the life is. And sometimes that speaks even more to a candidate. So like you're talking about what are candidates looking for? I think very often candidates, especially, we sometimes forget, if you're acting as a candidate, that it's a two-way interview. The company is interviewing the candidate, but the candidate's also interviewing to see if it's a match. And even if they're not actively doing that in the interview itself, when they're looking at the career site, that's when they're making those decisions. And so that's when it really matters that the company is conveying through all the tools that they have possible, through their content, through their images, through their video, what it's like to work here, and really attract that candidate and get them to convert to an applicant.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I know that there's been an increase. I think compared to the report, we've done this, 5-6 times?
5-6 years, yeah, 5 or 6 years.
So quite a while. From last year, video is up 12 times more than it has been in the past. And to your point, Janine, I always think back to how I overanalyze text messages and overanalyze Slack messages. And the same thing can be said when you're researching on a career site, right? Where you don't get to see that video, to see people's genuine reaction. It's so easy to hide behind text and say things, but actually to speak it and showcase it seems to be resonating with candidates. I know there was a stat that video is 12 times more likely to be shared than text and images. And it also boosts your SEO and your game plan, your X's and O's at the end of the day.
Devin, I want to jump in more.
No, go jump in.
Like, when you talk about the report, if anyone hasn't downloaded the report, by the way, it's the State of Candidate Experience 2022 report. It's available via Phenom's website. The report you mentioned looked at video. Well, that's video in the eyes of how a candidate is leveraging video. But what it doesn't touch on is it doesn't touch on all of those benefits that video has for the recruiters involved, or the benefits video has for the hiring managers involved. Video is not just, well, I'm going to turn a job description into video. Video is not just, I'm going to get the hiring manager to talk about their team on video for the candidate. Video is actually being ingrained in the entire really talent acquisition process. And I think that's one interesting thing that the report wouldn't go into, but it's that trend of where is video? It's so important. Where is it making that impact across the entire talent life cycle? And it should be noted, it's making enormous strides and impact in that.
To that point, I mean, it's oftentimes preached by analysts and thought leaders in the industry that that you need to meet candidates where they are, right? You have to find them, whether it be on LinkedIn or even now social media. And a couple weeks ago, JD, we had Chili Piper on, and we had their director of social media talk about how they are advertising their open positions just on TikTok. They were just featured in Forbes for, I believe, 7,500 applicants that they equated to one TikTok. Granted, that is, one instance, right? But you talk about sharing these stories, sharing what it's like to work at an organization, and also having recruiters reach out with organic content that isn't necessarily done by a videographer or something like that, but it shows the true humanity within human resources. And we talked a little bit at the beginning of looking for a new role and doing the research. If you think that a candidate is just going to look at your career site to find out who you are as an organization or what you stand for, you're probably mistaken. They're going to go to your Twitter. They're going to go to your LinkedIn. They're going to go to your Instagram and TikTok. And also, it's a great way to, like I said at the beginning, meet them where they are. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think this continues to come down to how organizations are trying to connect, period. So what does a connection mean? Okay, well, a connection usually is more special if it's personalized. Do you agree? Like
Absolutely.
In your life, a personalized experience is more meaningful than a non-personalized experience.
Yeah, it shows you care.
Yeah, shows you someone cares, right? I have a connection to that all of a sudden. So personalization one. I think often overlooked is relevance. So yes, you're making it personal, but if it's not relevant, it's not really good, right? So if there's something I really enjoy, a restaurant I really enjoy going to, and they greet me because they know me by name, oh my gosh, I'm starting to feel excited, right? They're going to be personalized. And if they bring me a dish of a food that I don't like, I think, oh, that just changed the experience in the opposite way versus, why didn't you just ask me what I liked? I would have said chicken fingers and fries, please. And then if they would have delivered that, I would have been the happiest person in that room because they made it personal and they made it relevant to me. So I think personalization and relevance are really key, Devin.
It's interesting you bring that up because when we talk about these large organizations, right, we're talking about the Fortune 500. They have thousands and thousands of open positions. So slimming that down and kind of weeding through the funnel to find the role that's right for you could be a tall task if you don't offer some of that personalization that you mentioned. So Janine, I'll ask you this. Is there a way for organizations, rather than just checking boxes and filter, to find really personalized job recommendations? Is it a social login? Is it potentially a search capability? What does that look like when you're dealing with, quite frankly, a large scale of roles?
Yeah, it's all of the above too. And with the career site that Phenom really offers to a lot of our clients, we have so much of that personalization. So you're not just walking in the door and they're greeting you by name. They also know what kind of dishes you like. So they can kind of get you there a lot faster, especially if the menu is that big, right? And what the career site can really do is it starts to respond proactively to the candidate and to the user. It's not just saying, okay, you want to go here? I'll take you here. It also says, hey, based off of your job search, either based off of your location that you were looking for jobs, the kind of work you're looking for, part-time, full-time, what type of category of job? Are you more interested in IT, or are you thinking of being on the front line somewhere? Have you thought about these other jobs? And also, here are some other recommendations that we have for you. Other people applied to the same role. Here's what else they applied to. Have you thought about that? So it really makes the connection a lot faster when you put personalization functionality in the middle.
I think I'll make a comment on that. Well, again, you're saying it's relevant, it's timely, it's personalized, it's everything a candidate is looking for, because that's what we all expect in our personal lives as well. And it goes deeper than that. That's looking at it from what a candidate experiences, right? And what they feel. From what a recruiter or a sourcer is dealing with too, you have to look at it and say, wow, wait a second. If you are engaging candidates and they're applying more and more quickly, and they're connected to the brand better, so they're finding that connection of purpose and meaning, and they're actually applying to the roles that they're best fit for. Boy, doesn't that make the recruiter's job or a sourcer's job much, much easier? They're spending then more time, exponentially more time, with the individuals that are best qualified and most interested in those open roles, versus the recruiter. They've got to look through all of these applications and who's a fit and who's not a fit. There's technology in play there that make their lives so much more efficient and productive. And then that translates into a more meaningful personal connection to the candidate, right back to the candidate. It keeps coming back to them.
Yes, it does.
JD, I'll ask you this. You ever been to a restaurant before? You mentioned you're a fan of chicken fingers. They're all out. They are fresh out of chicken fingers. Do you leave the restaurant, or typically does your server say, we're all out of chicken fingers, but we do have this blackened chicken meal or blackened chicken salad or whatever it may be? What's the experience like for you? And then Janine, I'll ask you, is there an equal side to that for the career site, where maybe you're looking for a product marketing position and they just don't have any openings? Will it recommend other roles?
So for me, I personally ask if they have any other menus on the kids menu, like any other items on the kids menu available tonight, which they mainly get a kick at. And then I say, I'm kind of serious. So then I get a little embarrassed. But, I think most restaurants that I go to, they suggest an alternative. Even if, let's face it, you ask for a Sprite, or Coke and Pepsi is like this. Okay, could I have a Pepsi? And they say, we don't have Pepsi. Would you like a Coke? Actually, I would like a Coke, a Diet Coke, please. Thank you very much. Right? It's very relevant to what I was looking for. I'm going to share this story, and then I know you're going to throw in. I was at a restaurant. This is not 2 weeks ago, and my children asked for Mountain Dew, and the hostess said, host or hostess, I'm calling anybody out, said, no, we don't have Mountain Dew. We have Sprite. And I choked up, because Sprite and Mountain Dew are almost opposites of each other. And I thought, why? How did we get to, we don't have Mountain Dew, but we have Sprite? Wasn't there some better recommendation in between?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, well, sometimes you're fresh all out, but with the career site too, just thinking about all the different kind of functionality and the alternatives that they try to provide. If you don't have a job in that category, we have all different types of ways to get, candidate can stay engaged with the company. They can sign up for various different types of alerts, join their talent community. We also have a Find Your Fit module, which is really fantastic. It just takes that whole process of seeing what the candidate is already searching for to the next level by asking the candidate, hey, upload your resume or answer a few quick questions. We may not have something for you right now, but now that we know what you're looking for, we can send that to you. Again, making the recruiter's job a whole lot easier. It's something that the recruiter doesn't have to try to figure out what the candidate is looking for. It's right there. And as soon as there's an opportunity that comes up, it matches the candidate.
So I think what's interesting in how that technology have evolved, right? From Phenom, we had a perspective. It was like, why don't you just ask me, right? Why don't you just ask me? So we built that technology. We just simply asked, what are you interested in? Where would you like to work? What are you really good at?
Right.
What was your previous title, right? Asking those type of questions to help personalize and make it relevant. But in addition to that, where was I going with that? In addition to asking them, it evolved to, if they're willing to share more, such as uploading a resume or connecting to social, we are now able to derive, based upon their experience in their skills, the skills they told us they have, in the skills that we're able to derive from their roles and from their experience. And now we're able to, once again, bring that into what roles in our organization might be a best fit for this person. that person may not know what a job is called or what a title of a role is called,
Exactly.
right? They may
Mhm.
not know that. They may not know what to tell us or what to search for. So our smart search accounts for that. Our job matching accounts for those things, looking at their skills and things that they might not know how to express to us, but we can derive.
Exactly, especially when it comes to different levels of experience too. Sometimes it varies from company to company. And when you can kind of match it for the candidate using functionality, you get them not just in the right job category if they're looking for an IT job, but like the right level of seniority that they're looking for, and where they could potentially go to next. So it's very powerful.
So we talk about job matching and fit scores. And again, we're bringing this up in the context of the candidate and a great candidate experience. But we can't forget those same principles apply to the recruiter and the sourcer and the hiring manager.
Mhm.
They now start to see the skills and the matching and how this candidate may be a best fit, even if they may not be
Mhm.
applying for that one specific role or looking for that role. And then the recruiter can reach out and say, hey, you didn't apply for this role, but based upon all of your experience and your skill sets and what we know are transferable skills or adjacent skills, the big
Right.
term,
Mhm.
adjacent skills, we know this matches. Do you want to apply? We think it's a good fit. Do you want to apply? And a lot of times the candidate goes, oh my gosh, wow, I feel like you really care about me,
Mhm.
that you're really trying to make me part of your company. I would love to learn more about that, right? And it
Yeah.
starts that meaningful connection and conversation. That's how winning companies are getting employees back and are hiring to meet their needs by making these connections. And without doing so, if they're not doing it, they're not competing anymore.
Absolutely. Making a candidate feel wanted goes a long, long way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And to your point, JD, I have to throw a stat in here. This is an AMA around the state of CX. 86% of the Fortune 500 did not have a social login option on their career site. So that means all of that personalization and tailored job recommendations that we just talked about are probably not available there. Since it is an AMA as well, I see Charlotte in the chat. She says, thoughts on using virtual reality within the recruiting process. Now, I think this is a super, super interesting question. I have some thoughts in my head of how that could be applied, but I'd love to hear you two on if it can be applied and how soon it would be.
As soon as I saw this question, I got excited. So I have a thought too. But Janine, do you want to kick us off or do you want us to go?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question. And if used in the right way, it can be really powerful. You just want to make sure it's not gimmicky. But what we've been seeing on the product side with a lot of our clients, they're looking to help a client learn as much as possible about their company, usually in terms of the physical space. What does it take for me to commute to get there? How can I commute? Like, can I actually work at this company's location, especially if I'm required to be on location? But also, what is the campus like? Is it conducive to my needs? Sometimes you don't know what the candidate needs. It could be someone with a disability, but it just could be somebody who has a very particular way of working through the world. And so when you can use virtual reality to convey that in a way that is beyond just video, that's a very cool, very attractive piece.
That actually crazy powerful points you're making, right? It's ridiculous how that connection can come by. If someone can, I'll say it this way. What has it used to be if you went to go test drive a car, like that's what they wanted to do. Can you test drive this car? Do you have time to test drive? A salesman wanted you to test drive a car because they wanted you to picture and feel yourself in that vehicle. We haven't lost that mindset. We want that connection. So for work, if virtually we can picture ourselves and feel ourselves in that warm, amazing, productive, efficient environment, man, I'm even more connected to the company.
Especially when you spend so much of your time there. You want to make sure you like it, because most people want to bring their best selves to the job and be engaged. And this is a great way to help them make that determination.
When they put on their virtual reality glasses or goggles and they're looking at the new organization and they see, oh my gosh, look, they have a doggy park, a doggy daycare park there. I can bring my dog to work. Like those things really make a cool connection from them. And not only that, wow, this is where I'll sit. The two people I've interviewed with, they're flanking me on my left and right. I got positive vibes from them, and here they truly are my teammates. This is where they sit. Like that just builds. And Devin, the way I wanted to answer this question is I have a 15-year-old son and 11-year-old son. both of them have Oculus units and both of them play with their friends constantly. So if you are trying to understand how an entirely different generation is communicating, interacting, that to them is almost like living in the first world, real world, right? So Charlotte, from my perspective, using virtual reality, there's absolutely going to be a place for it. Maybe it's going to be based on industry or demographic or age or something like that, but there's so many different use cases. It's not just for young people. It's not just for making that connection to the physical workplace. It's for all of the above.
You know, when we talk about career sites and candidate experience, oftentimes we equate them to e-commerce shopping experiences. And whether you like it or not, the housing market is crazy right now. I don't know if anyone's hopped on Zillow or Redfin or whatever it may be. People are buying houses sight unseen, right? Just through the web. And within that experience, there's a 3D walkthrough tour of you can see the house. And to what you two just said, seeing yourself at an organization and seeing, you know, where you are in relation to the ping pong table or in relation to the kitchen or wherever that may be, but seeing it and actually putting yourself in those shoes for a day. And also, you mentioned accessibility concerns, right? There's also folks out there, I know from my recruiting experience, I recruited in Center City, Philadelphia. Some people don't like heights. So if you're in an office that's 13, 14, you know, flights up and you have huge glass windows, that may help a candidate understand, hey, this isn't the right office for me, it's the right role, but are there other options, right? And you can have those conversations beforehand before you have that first awkward day where it's like, oh, no, I don't want to go that close to the edge. So absolutely, I think virtual reality will be in the recruiting process. I don't know when it will come. Maybe someone's using it right now, but it certainly will be on career sites at any moment now. But before we jump into the future a little bit, I wanted to talk about hearing back. We talked about the economy and all of that. And when we think of the candidate journey, it doesn't stop once a candidate applies, right? Once they throw their name into the hat, if you will. With so much uncertainty in the market right now, I mentioned a company could be hiring at a frenzy one week and then the next week slow down. How important is it for candidates to hear back? And should that be automated all the time? Or in some instances, should it be a phone call, right? If someone's at the final stages, what does that look like in the candidate experience that's outside of the X's and O's that we talked about at the beginning?
Well, I'll jump in first. I'll start on this one because I want to acknowledge that. I think the world over the last couple of years have seen, you know, some crazy times as it relates to hiring, just like the housing market. We had the housing, we had the hiring rush, and now you're actually seeing, although you know, economists are saying a recession is pending, or they believe a recession is coming, you're seeing a lot of companies in the tech sector actually laying off people. They either have laid off or they're prepping to lay off, right? That's much different than it was just a few months back when everyone was getting multiple job offers and companies were talking about having to pay premiums for talent. Some cases they felt overpaying because of the market, similar to the housing market, overpaying. So is it really overpaying, or is it just the value of the current economy? I think it's the value of the current economy, right? And if the economy is shifting and it's going lower, housing market has started to shake a little bit related to some lower prices. Now they're not losing $100,000, $200,000 a day, but they're losing a bit, right? Houses are staying on the market a little longer, you know. And I think the same goes for talent, right? Some companies are still in this rush of having to hire and meet their demands, and other companies, and I mentioned tech sector, they're pulling back a little bit right now and saying, hey, we got to watch what's going on. In fact, they're letting some individual go. So I want to at least comment on the times we're in. It's still this up and down times. It's still dependent on what industry you're in or sector you're in. It still depends on what type of hiring or retention. It's not just all about hiring. A lot is about retention too, how well you've done that over the last 2 to 3 years. And now that's dictating what's going on right now. Now you are asking about ghosting.
Yes and no. I think there's conversations that need to happen with candidates no matter where they are in the process. You mentioned the ups and downs. It can get even far more granular than that at companies. There could be specific departments that have a hiring freeze, right? But they want to continue to innovate. You talk about the tech sector. They're looking for, product folks and machine learning folks to continue to push that. But their customer success or sales roles may not be hiring at that same clip. So my question for you is, how frequently and how do you relay that message back? Should it be an email as soon as, you get news that you're, slowing down on your customer success team? Should that be sent out to any applicants that are in the funnel? Should it be a phone call that's picked up so that you can kind of explain those ins and outs?
I think what you're really asking, because I don't think there's a magic answer. I think it's very company specific on what their policies are. But I think how I take it is there needs to be transparency and accountability in a communication process or a candidate process.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And that starts from the minute the candidate chooses to apply to a company, right? And expresses that interest. Remember, the candidate is choosing to take time out of their life, out of their schedule. They've made a connection with a company, and now they're putting themselves out there to say, I'm very interested in this role and in your company, and I'd like to be considered to be hired, right? So someone in doing that, you think it's not appropriate? You think you can let them just hang out there forever without understanding where they're at in this process, regardless of whether it's the start of the process or whether it's the end and they were or were not the candidate? No communication delay or zero communication is acceptable any longer.
Yeah. Well, it's a relationship. If you think about any other kind of relationship you're in, you want to know where you stand at all times. So you need some kind of transparency, like you said. And I've seen candidates who have applied for jobs and the process took so long. They're like, should I even stay in? I don't know what's going on the other end. And sometimes what's going on the other end is completely legitimate and you don't need to share everything, but you need to just say, hey, just wanted to let you know, we're still really excited about you, just reaching out, but we have some things that we need to figure out or to answer before we can connect with you again. That means a lot. Candidates don't want to feel forgotten because they also have plans of their own. They want to know, am I free to go elsewhere? You were my top choice and I'll hang in here as long as I can, but I got to get something back from you.
I've seen this and it's very personal again to the individual recruiter, source, or a company, but I've seen this in my own exposure to hiring processes. I've given feedback to the recruiter that, I don't think this candidate, they interviewed well, but they're stronger candidates. So, here are the 2 or 3 things of why this candidate is not the right candidate that we're going to extend it off to or go forward to the process. And the recruiter said, okay, thanks. That's great. I'm not going to give this to them today because it's Friday and I don't want to give them bad news. I'll wait till next week.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's the right decision. It makes me feel that we never truly had that transparent relationship with the candidate to begin with. Because if we had that transparent relationship, if we were building the true relationship that it takes to get a great mutual beneficial connection, then we should be able to go to that candidate and say, hey, listen, we really appreciate that you went through this process. No one likes to receive bad news, period, especially on a Friday. But I wanted to let you know before you went into your weekend, this is the feedback we received from the hiring managers. And this position, unfortunately, is going to be filled by someone else, not for you. But you've left a really good impression and we will consider you for other roles versus waiting till Monday.
And even sharing with them how that could potentially work too. Because especially if the candidate is really excited about the company and maybe, the experience that they had just wasn't the right fit for that particular job, but the company is seriously considering them for something else and they might not even know what it is yet, but just to kind of share with them what that process is. Again, you've created a relationship and you're sustaining that relationship that you can come back to. And once it's sustained, you've already laid the groundwork and that's the hardest part. Reestablishing a connection is hard. But if you've maintained it the entire time, no matter how loose, it means a lot.
It does. And also we're assuming that by not telling that candidate on a Friday and waiting till Monday, that's best for the candidate. Who are we to say what's best for someone else? Maybe that person is actually trying to make a hard decision in whether they get an offer from you and take that offer, or there's another offer already on their plate that they really need to make a decision on. So by telling them in the right time frame, the respected time frame, they can now go on and make the decisions that they actually control versus us controlling something that we think we're doing someone a favor and likely not.
And that sense of control is important too, especially in times like these. A candidate wants to feel like they've got something that they own as well as the company that they're working with.
Justin, hitting the ones and zeros over there. We've got some comments. I don't know if they can be brought up, but yep, there's some comments. Being transparent with candidates, I think, is the most crucial thing for recruiters to be able to do to build effective relationships with candidates. Completely agree. And there's one more here. The amount of candidates I have that have thanked me for calling them to reject them, but sharing the feedback, that's the key, right? Sharing the feedback, being transparent for our decisions. That more people thank me than those calls than you can imagine. I will completely agree with this. As a hiring manager, the times that I have resisted, like being forward with the candidate or being really open with the candidate, they've been the ones I've personally felt as a hiring manager, I didn't do what's right for them. And I guarantee they didn't feel good. The ones that I've been that transparent have always thanked me for being transparent and honoring and respecting them. Because at the end of the day, we're all people, we're all humans. No one is trying to be evil here. Someone, again, expressed their desire to be part of a company or a role. The least we can do as hiring managers, recruiters, anyone in HR part of the process is give that transparency and do it in a timely manner.
Judy, to use your example specifically on Friday, I think about the human side of it, right? The weekends are the most popular time for most folks to apply to jobs, right? So if you get them that news a little quicker, they may be appreciative that says, hey, thank you. I wish it worked out. But we also talk frequently about referral pipelines, right? And if you share that tough pill to swallow information a little bit sooner and say, hey, we thought of you for this role, not sure if it's something that you'd be interested in. If not, maybe there's somebody else. They may be appreciative, and you can have that talent advisor relationship versus just a recruiter where it's black and white, simply a handshake sort of situation, and build that relationship to open up to new pipelines and have a better pool of candidates that may not have applied to your role, that may not be available simply because you shared news that was human at the end of the day, right? So a lot there. I know we wanted to show some examples, but before we jump into that, is there anything of great candidate experiences, is there anything that we may have missed in this conversation around the candidate jersey or the candidate journey? Sports are on the mind today, if you couldn't tell. Around the candidate journey, as well as the state of candidate experience report.
Devin, I'm with you. I think if we can fit it in, just showing
absolutely.
some of these ideas. The only thing I'll say is if you're not familiar with the state of candidate experience report, it is available to you. It looks like Jennifer Thomas put it in the comments there. So absolutely go ahead and download that report. Again, we reported on 500 all the career sites of the Fortune 500, and we essentially graded them on a scale across attraction, engagement, conversion, and even artificial intelligence, use of artificial intelligence, because that is becoming more and more critical, not just for candidates, but for recruiters, for hiring managers, for everyone involved in that hiring process. And so I think what we'll do is if we could transition now and seeing how do some of the best companies start recognizing a candidate's on their career site and making it personalized and relevant experience. As simple as that.
Personal and relevant is absolutely critical, but so is ease of use and usability. Like the functionality is fantastic, but if you're not going to make me want to be there, I'm not going to spend a lot of time there, right? So, even just starting with search, which, Phenom helps with, especially with its career site, just where you come up in a search means a lot to a candidate too, what they're searching for. So if I was looking for a career at MGM, for example, this is just one account that we like to use. We want to make sure it comes up top of mind. And if we can filter it even further for the candidate, that's great. But as soon as they jump over to the career site, they have different ways to search.
different ways to engage with a chatbot, etc. They can search by different types of categories of jobs and things like that, which is really, really powerful. And again, as we talked about, sharing what the company's values are, you're already doing that as soon as the candidate gets to your website or how they get to your website. All of that means something to them, and different ways that they can join a talent community or engage with what's currently going on. You don't have to be an employee of the company to start to engage with the company, or even have a recruiter connecting with you before you're engaging with the company, which is really critical. You can continue to learn. And once a candidate gets to a particular job as well, we were talking about not just signing up for job notifications, but the similar jobs. These become even more personalized the more the candidate comes to visit the website. And if they leave and they come back, we retain that information about them because we don't want them to start over from scratch. I mean, think about a call center and how frustrating that experience is. Every time you get transferred, you have to start over. We don't want that to happen. We want the candidate to pick up where they left off and get to the application process even sooner. But we also have tailored job recommendations based off of your interests. This is the Find Your Fit, the personalization on demand that we were talking about. And we use keywords and things like that. So you can use a resume, you can answer some questions, which is really fantastic. And you were talking about signing in. We can make sure that we get a candidate's profile right there if we want them to do that. And then we can start to figure out from the candidate, what type of job are you actually looking for? And maybe they don't know. Maybe they know what kind of skills they have, but they're like, I don't know if that's technology or a call center. Like, I've worked in technology in a call center before, but I don't know what it's like at MGM or at this other company. Maybe I'd select both, and we continue to just work with them, and we figure out, again, it's not just the category of job, it's the skill and the experience that really matters to the hiring manager, right? And recruiters are trying to get to that even faster. And what can they actually do that's really helpful and relevant? And again, location is important. We want to make sure that we understand,
So as you're doing location, what I think is interesting,
I can't type and speak at the same time.
But here's what's interesting about location. Location many times is auto-detected. So jobs may be populated based upon the connection, right? And where we see it, but that may or may not be.
Exactly.
Right. It may or may not be where that user wants. Maybe they want to move somewhere. Maybe they want to change locations. And so what you're showing is we're simply not guessing, we're asking.
Especially in today's economy. I mean, think of how many people probably left their original location because they're like, I don't want to work in the city. I like the company I work for, but I want to go live out in the country. And as companies are starting to bring people back into the office, sometimes those policies change and the candidate is with them. And sometimes they're like, I really want to stay out here. So I'm going to look for a job here. So I need to change my location. And I know a lot of companies are always trying to geolocate you to make it easier, but we need a quick way out for a user, just in case that may not be the right fit.
Yep. I love it.
Yeah. So, but that's what you have here. And once you sign up, you've got a profile on the candidate. You have some of what they're interested in. You can figure out if they're matches right away based off what they're playing for. And if they're not, you've already established them as a lead in your system as a recruiter, which is a really powerful tool.
So what I'm seeing and what you are displaying is there's a ridiculous amount of technology that's happening behind the scenes, right? We're actually using AI-based technology. We're using location. We're using data being gathered from the candidates. And the amazing part of all that is it's all happening in real time.
Yes.
It's not like come back later and we'll give you jobs that you might qualify for. It is real time. And then you're bringing the human in the loop already to change their own parameters. If someone's made the wrong guess or if they change their mind, they don't want to be stuck. Oh, it's only giving me jobs for this location. Now, no, it will change based upon their preferences and what they're sharing. I think that's an amazing piece of it. There's a lot of technology making this happen, but it's real time.
Yeah. And I don't know if you just saw, but as soon as I exited out the Find Your Fit, it went from job recommendations to profile recommendations. Like, we know more about you. We're going to use that to help you, not in a creepy way, but in a way that actually makes sense. Yeah. We want to make sure that you feel seen and heard and like you have an experience here that's personalized to you.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing I think we're running out of time to show is you're using a web interface to do this. You're on your Mac. But if this was on mobile, really the chatbot would be prompting you and walking you through these. And the chatbot can do that here too, right? On the web experience too.
Right.
So what's important, it was mentioned by one of you earlier, it's being able to reach candidates where they are, how they want to be reached. So if they're on mobile, especially for high volume hiring,
Yep,
especially for
exactly.
that, you better be having a chat and text-based experience and still making it personalized, still getting them the job recommendations, because that's what it takes to compete for those workers, because that's their expectations.
And you want it to be quick too. Chatbots can help with that. Technology can help with that. No more waiting around and trying to filter through all the different options. Like, what's the best? I want to sign up for that.
It's awesome.
No, it raises the great point. How many of you carry your resume on your mobile device, right?
What resume?
Nobody has that downloaded.
Yeah.
So the ability to also screen and schedule from there and ask some questions of, maybe it is lifting weight or how, you move around, right? If the position requires that, to be able to ask those questions so that you can filter through, recommend another job that may be a better fit based on those parameters, but also get those questions answered before any recruiter picks up the phone, has a conversation, and potentially wastes not just their time, but also the candidate's time, right? So those are all awesome points. Just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Anything else? Anything that we left out today? I want to thank everyone in the comment section, but Janine, any final thoughts?
I think there's so much that we could talk about here. I could talk all day. I could nerd out on this. But, I think you've made a lot of really great points. The relationships that recruiters are establishing that are representing the values of the company. And it ties into the technology experience that candidates have as well. And you want to make sure that those two experience matches, as much as possible.
Yeah.
JD, how about you? Any final thoughts?
Now, my final thoughts is HR has truly transitioned from they're a necessary group of individuals that work for a company that are really a cost center for the company to they're designing experiences. They are truly designing the experiences starting from, yes, the candidates and attracting that talent, engaging that talent, but it's going into the employee experience side of the house. Now, we didn't touch on any of that today, but HR has transitioned. HR is no longer a cost center. HR is now, they continue to be the heroes of how you get the best talent, develop that talent, and continue developing them, and retaining that talent for the long road. They're an invaluable function now to an organization. Did it take COVID, or was it already transitioning that way? I feel it was already transitioning that way. But the societal shifts that have happened, and now the technological shifts that have happened, have now given HR the tools and the means to really excel. So I love that. I'm glad we got a chance to touch on that today. And that's my last word.
I anxiously await the 2022 State of Employee Experience report.
Yes.
It sounds like that may be something in the works. This was awesome. I really want to thank you both for taking the time. I know we didn't cover a ton of stats, but if you're interested in stats, download the report. It is on phenom.com. I know Jen Thomas dropped the link in the comment section as well, so you can definitely dive in there. And if your company isn't on there, you can even request an audit of your own career site, maybe if you're not in the Fortune 500. So that is available to you as well. Thank you both for coming. We will be here next Thursday, noon Eastern time, and every other Thursday after that, with the exception of Thanksgiving and maybe some holidays in and around there. But that's all in the fall. If you missed any of today's episode, the AMA Around the State of Candidate Experience 2022 Benchmark Report, you can always catch the replay on YouTube, on Facebook, or on LinkedIn. And also head over to our blog. We recap all of these if you'd like to share some clips or snippets from the program. But thank you, JD. Thank you, Janine. I appreciate you both. And I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their Thursday.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.